Welcome to Frameworks. This is a place for coaches who want more than just reps and sets. We dig into principles, philosophy, and stories that help you coach with clarity, design with purpose, and keep chasing mastery. Today's episode is deeply personal, and it's all about fatherhood. More specifically, the role a father plays in shaping his family's health and their wellness. But I want to be really clear up front. I do not have all the answers, and nor do I claim to have them. I'm not here to preach as if I've perfected this, because I definitely have not, but I have spent years thinking on it, praying on it, and trying to live it out in my own home. And please keep in mind that this is coming from my perspective. I'm a father with a wife and two young boys, ages 9 and 14. So just keep that in mind. In this episode, what I want to do is I want to share 3 frameworks that guide how I approach health as a father. And I hope that some of this insight will help you. So let's dig into it. Okay, so in today's episode, I am speaking directly to fathers or fathers-to-be. So if you are a mother, sorry, I'm not a mother. So there's things that I might say that might not hit home directly to you. Or if you're a mother or a woman, some of the things that I say might make a lot of sense to you. I'm not sure. You be the judge of that. But back to fathers. Something I want to talk about is our role in the home, right? So fathers are architects of culture in the home. The values that we set, the examples that we live, and the health that we prioritize, it all shapes the future of our children. And funny enough, today is actually my youngest son's 9th birthday. And something that I kind of go back to quite often when it comes to like, am I doing a good job as a father? It's actually a proverb that I go back to. And what this proverb says is that it says that when we train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So that's Proverbs chapter 22, verse number 6. There's a lot of wisdom. And for you guys that know what a proverb is, right? They're wisdom texts. So it doesn't mean that Proverbs 100% come true 100% of the time, but they're principles, right? They're principles that we ought to live by. And there's a lot of wisdom in these wisdom texts. So what this proverb says specifically is it says that we need to lead by example. We need to bring our children up a particular way, and they are more likely to continue that path, to follow that path. Is that true 100% of the time? Absolutely not, but it's a really, really good principle. So today, that's where I'm coming from. I'm just talking about some of the things that we can do and some frameworks that we can wrap around fatherhood and how we lead our family in our health, our wellness, our fitness, all of those things. All right, guys, framework number 1 is the idea of having extremely clear values. And I put that word extremely in front of clear very intentionally. And I did that because I think it's so important that these are just really, really clear. Okay, so our values are essentially our aim. Okay, so if we're not clear about what our values are in a household, how can we lead our family? How can we lead our children if we don't actually know, or if they don't know what we're leading them to? So if they don't have that aim, how do they know if they're on their way, if they're veering off course, whatever the case is? So our values are our aim. So framework number 1, we have to have extremely clear values, and we have to make sure that we all understand and agree on those values. Okay, so don't assume that your family knows what you stand for. You have to spell it out. Define what's right, define what's wrong, define what you believe, and define why. I always have the why behind those things. This connects directly to what we talk about in coaching, right? We can't prescribe something to someone without being able to back it up. So we should always be able to answer that question, well, why this or why that? Write them down. Make it really, really clear. Make it extremely obvious what those values are. And we'll talk about being an exemplar and actually living those things out here in a minute. But you have to make sure you're actually living those things out. It's one thing to say like, oh, this just sounds extremely good. And I want to put this on paper because it's what I want to be. But if it's not what you are and what you're not striving to be, then it's basically useless. Okay, so you have to write those things down. So just personal story. I thought about this years ago, and I went through this whole process of this framework, and ask myself the question, like, am I really clear, right? And I thought I was, but when I asked myself the question, am I really clear what our family stands for, what is right, what is wrong, so on and so forth? The honest answer was no, I wasn't really clear because it was nowhere in my home, right? Like we would have conversations around these things and there would be reminders and all of that. So we spent a lot of time and we, drafted essentially a what we believe poster, I guess, canvas that we just hung in our home. And our moniker is this concept of belief. And maybe we'll throw it on the screen, an image, but it just says, our name, the Hardwicks, and then in parentheses, it says, in quotations, it says, what you believe molds you. And I think that's such a powerful statement. What you believe ultimately will mold you. Okay. And that's a big one, and we can go really deep into that. But that's like the moniker, right? Like that's what we talk about all the time, our beliefs and our belief system and the resoluteness in that belief system. And then under that, I just have 9 values that I laid out very specifically, starting with what we espouse to be, right? And our belief system is resolutely behind God. So that was number 1. And then we went, 2 through 9, and we talked about respect. We talk about honoring. We talked about, taking care of our bodies. We talked about respecting where we live, right? Not only our own home, but our community and our city and our state and our country and the earth and all of those things. And then there's some more, principle-based things, right? Like don't do things that you would tell someone not to do. Or on the other hand, don't tell someone to do something if you're not willing to do that yourself. So I won't walk through all 9 of those things, but that was a really good practice for me personally, because it made me really reflect and think about those things. So I would advise that we all do that. And it doesn't have to be a big canvas in your home or wherever the case is, but it does need to be, in my opinion, something that you see, right? Something that your family sees, something that they walk past every single day. You don't have to have like a shining light on it and get around it every single day and talk about it. But maybe you will. I'm not sure. But it just needs to be extremely clear. It needs to be visible, and it needs to act as a reminder on a day-by-day basis. Yeah, I kind of thought about this next framework and, asked myself the question, is it just too low-hanging fruit? Do I even talk about it because it's obvious? And for those reasons, I had to put it in as a framework because it's so important. It's so foundational. And framework number 2 is to set an example. Okay, so children mimic what we do. They don't mimic what we say. So, fathers out there listening, this, right? If we've been fathering for any amount of time, it's one thing to say to do something, but it's a completely different thing to actually model that thing that you tell your children to do. Okay, so if you want your son to be a good man, you have to be a good man. What does that mean? We can, have a deep, lengthy conversation on those things, but whatever your definition of good is, right? You need to first understand what that is because you're expecting your child to be that, and then you need to model that. Okay, so if you want him to respect women, show him by respecting your wife, his mother. Okay, and we can go on, right? Like if we want him to be faithful, let him see you on your knees and praying. If you want your kids to move, you should probably move. If you want them to eat well, you should probably eat well, right? Like we have to model these things. We have to model these behaviors. That is so, so important. And we even talk about that on the coaching side, right? Like don't ask your client to do something that you're not willing to do. Or maybe more importantly, don't be a hypocrite. So don't ask your client to do something or live a certain way if you live counter to that. Okay, so it's the same concept and idea. We have to be examples, and we have to understand that we can say something every single day, but the most powerful thing are the things that we do. Okay, children are like little, I don't know, what are those things called? Like almost like puppets, right? They essentially do, especially talking about young children, they do what their parents do. They speak the way that their parents speak, right? Like we're literally modeling these young kids as they're growing up. So if we want our kids to be healthy, we have to be healthy ourselves, and we have to model that. And we have to model that in a way that is not, overly forceful. We have to model that in a way that is and we'll dig into this in the third framework, but bear with me, not too overbearing and not too forced. Okay, so we'll get into that next in the integrating health as a priority. But just make sure that we're always modeling, make sure that we're always setting the example. All right, and the third and final framework is integrating health in your lifestyle. Okay, so integrating health in your family's lifestyle on a day-by-day basis. Health isn't a separate box. It's woven into our daily family life. So we should prioritize things like family walks, hikes, vacations that maybe center around movement. Cook meals together, play together, sweat together. Show them that health is not punishment. Health is a gift. And I know I'm essentially preaching to the choir. You guys understand this because you're in this world, but bear with me for a second. We take health and healthy behaviors as something that we just automatically do, because for some of us, it's kind of just like in us, it's in our DNA. We strive to, move and eat better and so on and so forth because we just love the way that it makes us feel. It's woven into our personal lives. But sometimes we can fall into the trap of just like boxing ourselves up over here and kind of, leaving our families on this side. And it's like, well, kind of to each his own, right? Like, let's not do that. Like, health isn't a separate box, and it's definitely not a separate box for me and for you. And that's not to say that our, sons and daughters have to be in the weight room crushing a bunch of weights on a daily basis. It's not that at all. It's just this concept of we need to move, we need to eat well, we need to really appreciate this thing, especially if that's inside of those values that we talked about in framework number 1, right? I would highly recommend, if this is in your brain and in your heart, to talk about what the body means, what it means to have a healthy, resilient, vibrant, vital body, right? And how there's so many good things that happen downstream. Not to get too deep into this, but a lot of things on that downstream piece, a lot of things are affected in a negative way when we don't take care of our bodies. Okay, so when we start talking about, everyone saying that, not everyone, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but a large percentage of kids these days, my son is ADD, or my son has this issue or that issue or that issue. It's like, let's just take a look at the food that we're eating, the amount of movement that we're getting, and the time that we're spending behind screens and so on and so forth. Okay, so a lot of those things are downstream of a healthy lifestyle, emotional stability, right? So let's not even put that word on it. Let's just talk about the health of our brains. Okay, so the brain is the muscle that we exercise the least, right? So we're talking about health, and when I say health, you're probably thinking the food I eat and the activity that I do, but it goes far beyond that. What are the books that I read? Do I challenge this brain thing? Am I making sure that I'm taking care of this thing? All of those concepts and ideas, just make sure that we're thinking about those things holistically, because there's a lot of really, really good benefits that are downstream of just living this healthy lifestyle. All right, now talking about applying this in your daily lives. Okay, number 1, just think about writing down your family values this week if you don't have those already. If you already have those, pull those things out and just take a look at them. Let's refine those things. Maybe they need no editing, but just take a look at them and make sure that those things are still true. Even if it's 3 statements, get them on paper. It doesn't need to be a long, robust list. For most of us, I think it starts off being a very long and robust list, and the challenge is to kind of consolidate some of those things. But just brain dump, get those things on paper. Audit your own behaviors. Where are you modeling where and what you want your kids to become? And where might you be falling short? Okay, so none of us are perfect, guys. So we're definitely all falling short in some places when we compare them to the places where we're just absolutely crushing it. So just audit your own behavior and think about, okay, where can I bring this area up? Maybe there's some things that I should be doing that I'm not doing. Maybe there's some things that we should be doing as a family that we ought to be doing. which brings me to my next point. Take some time. Plan one family health practice that you guys can participate together in. Maybe it's a weekly walk. Maybe it's a daily walk. Maybe it's, exercising with your kids. Maybe it's taking your kids hiking. Maybe it's going on an excursion. Maybe it's planning a little short vacation where the entire vacation is kind of modeled around let's just move a lot. We went to Italy a few months ago, and that's what we did. We were like, hey, we're going to rent a car. We're going to park this car. And then where it makes sense, we're just going to walk everywhere. And we walked a lot, and no one even noticed it because we were just going from like place to place in Rome and in Florence and Orvieto. And it was like, by the end of the day, the kids with their little feet probably had about little legs probably had about 40,000 steps in there. And my wife and I had, 20,000 plus steps on a daily basis because we're just moving, right? Like we're just on the move and moving. So, if you have the means, maybe look at planning something like that. It doesn't have to be like an overseas vacation. Maybe it's an hour down the road. Maybe it is 5 minutes down the road where you guys can just go out and move together as a family. Also, fathers, maybe start extending this outside of your own home once your own home is taken care of. Maybe you have clients that are fathers and you can kind of help them model these behaviors and these practices in their home once they kind of get this, once they get their hands wrapped around this stuff. Maybe you have neighbors or friends or whatever the case is. Just keep that in mind. As fathers, we're stewards. Right? We're stewards of our families, and because of that, we're stewards of our family's health. So let's take that really, really seriously. And when it comes to health, that guidance is best done by leading from the front. Okay, so we have to lead from the front, and all that means is that we just have to be exemplars. We have to do the things that we're asking our family to do. We have to have values. We have to be the example. We have to live health together, because one day our children won't just remember what we said. They're going to remember who we actually were by the actions that we took or the actions that we did not take. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me. I hope that this episode and this conversation were helpful, especially to you fathers out there, and to you mothers. Maybe it was helpful for you guys as well. But that'll be it for this week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.